This is the Business Stuff Podcast. This is where I will share the lessons I've learned from advising thousands of businesses over almost 30 years. Each episode will give you practical insight to allow you to learn from other people's mistakes. I'll be pulling in experts from our team and the world of business, and together we'll make sure your business is giving you what you want. My name is Martin, and this is the Business Stuff Podcast. Hi, it's Martin from the Accelerator team at Robson Laidler, and I'm here with Johnny Ross from Fleek Marketing. Hi, Johnny, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm really good. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
No worries. And we're here today to talk about SEO, which everyone will have seen that acronym flying all over. They might not realize what it is or how useful it can be. Search engine optimization. So Johnny has agreed to give us, 20, 30 minutes of how to actually get started on this, how to make the most within your business, when you might need it, when you might not. But Johnny, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do and why you do it.
Yeah, sure. So search engine optimization is about optimizing a website to be higher in something like Google. I actually was a former dispensing optician. So I worked in an optician's practice many years ago. And we set up an e-commerce site selling sunglasses. And we were one of the biggest sunglass retailers in the UK. And we knew that from our buying power. We were bigger than Shade Station. We were bigger than Debenhams. And we were at the top of Google for absolutely everything to do with sunglasses. So whether it be sunglasses, designer sunglasses, Oakley sunglasses, Armani sunglasses, we were just all over Google, and we had phenomenal sales. As I said, we knew from the buying power, buying direct from manufacturers, that we were the biggest at the time for about 5 years. Sales dropped in 2004, and we didn't really know why. And we didn't look at things like Google Analytics very often, which nowadays you need to look at quite often. It's a tool that helps you understand what's going on your website. So sales dropped. Took us a month to realize that we'd moved from position 1 of Google for pretty much anything to do with sunglasses to page 7 of Google.
That's a massive difference. It's about 10, 15 on each page. Do
you ever go to page 7 of Google, Martin?
I've been there once when I was looking for to see whether one of our blogs showed up anywhere. But I was looking for it. I knew it was there somewhere. But yes.
No one ever goes
not often.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly.
It may as well not exist.
So we went through 2 SEO agencies over an 18-month period and spent tens of thousands of pounds. And 18 months later, we were still on page 7 of Google, even for our brand name. So it was crazy, really. And in the end, I found a guy. Go on.
Well, just for the people watching, then. So when you say even for your brand name, so if you type Robson Laidler, it's quite an unusual name. We come top. Yeah. Doesn't matter what anyone else does.
Yeah.
So are you saying even if you type the name of your business, the name of the website, you're still not even coming?
Google had manually suppressed our entire website to page 7 of Google.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. And I presume you've come up with an idea of why, but I don't want to change the flow of the story here.
No, it's fine. Well, what happened was, in the end, I found a guy in New York on $250 an hour back in 2005, and within 2 weeks, he got us back to page 1 of Google. So for 18 months, we'd had 2 SEO agencies in the UK costing tens of thousands of pounds, telling us to do stuff that just did not work. In the end, this guy solved it in 2 weeks, and I learned a huge amount about SEO. I became really frustrated with the SEO industry because it's an unregulated market, not like yourselves. It was, I was really frustrated. So we needed to invest at that point because Debenhams and Shade Station had taken over. He got us back to page 1, but positions 3 and 4. Big difference between position 1 and position 3 or 4 on page 1 of Google.
Johnny, is the reason for that because not that you're a commodity, but if people want some Armani sunglasses, they will normally just click the first one, see what the price is. If they're happy, they'll buy. So is there a massive difference between first, second, third? Or
there's a huge difference. So forget what it is. If you're just take yourselves as an accountant. So if you're seeking an accountant, you do a search for a local accountant. Typically, number 1 slot will get about 25% of the traffic. Number 2 will get about 20. Sorry, number one will get about 50% of the traffic. Number two will get about 25% of the traffic. Number
Right.
three, you're starting to go down to 10%. And as you go down to 4, 5, 6, well, of course, there's only about 15% left. So it's a huge difference not being in the top slot for whatever business you are.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, irrelevant of it being commerce or B2B, totally irrelevant. So we needed to invest, and the senior partner didn't want to invest at the time. I decided to go off and help SMEs, small businesses, understand what this was all about, understand what SEO was about, understand how to ultimately play Google's game. It's a really unfair playground that Google's created, but it's about understanding how it works. So that's how I got into SEO, and it became very apparent that SEO wasn't enough of what small businesses needed, because they needed web design, development, email marketing, Facebook advertising. I then created a digital marketing agency, and that's how I got here today. So that's the background, but I think it's worth people listening or watching just to understand how I've got there, because SEO, well, it's there's some agencies that you end up just paying money to, and you've no idea what you're paying for. They just say we're doing SEO, and they go off and do some
We're
stuff.
doing it, and they probably pre-warned you in advance that there's no overnight success.
There's no guarantees,
and before you realise they've done nothing, you're months in. Is that the?
You're 2 years in, and you still can't answer the question, has it worked? You've no idea. You know that you're paying your bills.
So Johnny, there was something quite interesting. I just make little notes as we go here. You said a couple of interesting things there. When you were listing off the things you wanted to attract, the search terms you were looking for, at no point did you say cheap sunglasses. Do we almost need to start a little bit before we decide what we want to try and attract, and say it's worth bearing in mind you have laser focus on who it is, who your market is, so you can then tailor exact terms to that kind of person? Is that worth just covering off or not?
Well, it's an interesting topic, this one, because you've got sort of a 50-50 split in the SEO community. So you'll have certain SEO people that will say you just need to pick sort of the 10, 12 keywords, phrases, questions that your customers, clients, consumers, whoever they might be searching. Alternatively, the way I see it is that actually you need to have hundreds, if not thousands, of keywords that you need to be focusing on. And I'll tell you why. If you want to be at the top of Google for, let's say we sell cars and we want to be at the top of Google for cars, why would Google put us at the top of Google for something like cars if we weren't high in Google for things like diesel cars, electric cars, petrol cars, how to fix a car, how to buy a car, how to
safe cars,
all of those sort of things. So the common sense aspect is that if you're going to be at the top of Google for a particular keyword, topic, phrase, if you're not high in Google for everything around it, why would you be at the top for that particular thing? So I think it's around, for me, it's around coming, and the place to start with SEO. So it's a really good question, to be fair. The place to start with SEO is in some way understanding your clients. But actually, the first place to start is, what do you think you should be high in Google for? First, instinctively, what do you think you should be high in Google for? What, and this is, you're just creating sort of a list in perhaps an Excel sheet, just one column. What do you think you should be high for?
Let's stick with cars then. And and let's say you're a dealer, not a manufacturer. And let's say you deal just in BMW for no particular reason. But so to give some examples, you want BMW used, BMW servicing, BMW aftercare.
Yeah.
Literally that kind of thing. It's just come up with the things. And I presume this. What was interesting before, Johnny, is he said, things like repairs. They might not want you to fix your own car, but do they still need to then come up in those things that they don't actually want you to do yourself? I haven't worded that very well, but does that make sense?
It's a bit like you guys. So I'm sure you sell the service of submitting my VAT return or submitting my tax forms, and I'm sure that you'd like me to pay you to do that, but at the same time you need to be there helping people and advising people. And ultimately, let's imagine I'm trying to paint the walls in my house. Well, you can show me how to paint them, but ultimately I'm either going to want to do it myself or I'm not going to want to do it myself. And it's the same scenario. So by you showing me, by BMW showing me how to fix a car, for example, they're adding a ton of value. They're actually getting across their expertise. They're making sure that they're relevant in search and that people can find them.
So having something that tells you how to change your oil isn't actually suggesting that you change your oil. It's them demonstrating their credibility to you.
Exactly.
That they know how to change oil. If you want your oil changed, we've got you. And this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
It's interesting because someone years ago, I think it was a guy called James Ashford, who's the first person I heard this from. I'm not sure if he invented it, but he said Gordon Ramsay will quite happily tell you exactly how to cook anything he cooks, but he'll still have a restaurant. Because you still go in and want Gordon's version of lasagna. You don't want to make your own version of Gordon's lasagna. You want Gordon's lasagna.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, totally. And also, whilst we're talking of Ramsey, the thing that I've always learned from him is that if like he said, if 16 people tell you that your soup's crap, then your soup's crap. So, listen to what people say about your business and your products and services. And if people are telling you it's shit, you need to do something about it. So that's just by the by.
Because that's the other thing here as well. Again, it's pointless driving traffic if you can't handle the traffic.
Yeah.
So in your sunglasses example, I presume you had a system where when they got there, they bought sunglasses, the glasses went out the door, and it was nice. It was all simple. The money was collected. You could cope with the volume because you were used to dealing with volume. It's pointless turning SEO on and getting inundated with queries you can't handle.
You've got to have a good product and service, haven't you, and be able to deal with it. Although what's worth mentioning is that SEO actually takes a long time, so it's not like you can suddenly switch it on. And actually, SEO unfortunately can take a couple of years. It's about training Google, and it's about building trust with Google. So it's a long-term gain, so that's worth bearing in mind actually. But you don't. But actually, you don't need to invest a huge amount. It's about understanding what it's about.
I was going to say, so people out there are probably quite daunted, thinking I can't come up with it with tens of thousands of search terms.
Well, let me explain. So
I haven't got 2 years. What can I do on the ground right now? Where do I start?
Yeah. So I think the key thing is actually, okay, so what do we want to be found for? Let's just create a list. What do we think we want to be found for? Then if you've got some staff, ask your staff, what do you think we should be found for in Google? And either way, then the third thing is, when people ring us or email us, what are the things they're asking us? What are the typical questions they're asking? And what's the terminology they're using? So what's the words they're using? Earlier I said you'll submit my tax. Actually, it's self-assessment, isn't it? Or whatever. But I use the word tax. So it's about understanding, what do people use? What are the words they use? And you add those to your list. And then the fourth thing is you start typing some of these keywords into Google, because when you start typing into Google, there's an autocomplete and Google starts suggesting keywords to you. And it's about grabbing some of those, because the only reason they're there is because other people have typed them.
So how do I submit my tax return? How do I submit my T will give you a tax return?
Exactly.
There are many other things people query how to submit. And so are you literally saying then, so what do I think? What do the staff think? What are people asking for when they call? Their emails? What are they asking? And then rattle it into Google, see what it's suggesting. So let's say we're doing tax returns. How do I submit my tax return? What do I do with that then now, Johnny? I've got that. I've got 20 others for all my services, but
brilliant. So we've got our big list of keywords, and that gives us the ability of doing a few things. So one of the things it gives the ability of doing is understanding where we are in Google, because we could search for some of these phrases and see where we appear, and that would give us the ability to be able to track on a monthly or whatever basis to see where we are in Google and whether we're increasing in Google. So that's the first thing.
So what do you mean then, Johnny? So I would type into Google, how do I submit my tax return?
Find out where you rank.
I've got a blog on the site because people it's searching something. So I've wrote a blog. using those key terms.
Yeah.
If I then come up 7th on page 2, just make a note,
Yeah.
because how can you measure an improvement if you don't know where you're starting from? Is that the...
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that's one thing that you could do with this list. But the bigger thing that you can do with this list, and the sort of more actionable thing that you can do with this list, is actually just to start using the words and the phrases and the questions. So the next time you update your homepage, or the next time you think of creating a new service page or editing a service page, or the next time you think of writing a blog, the first place to look is that keyword list and start thinking, right, we're about to write about self-assessments. Let's go back. Let's have a look at this list. Or we're about to write about BMWs, whatever it might be. Go back to this list and start identifying 5, 6, 7 keywords, phrases, or questions that you can start using in the content. And of course, if you use them in the homepage, that gives lots of importance to them. But at the same time, you could start writing a blog about some of these things as well.
So it's repetition then, is it, Johnny? Because, how to submit a tax return, you can't just call a blog how to submit your tax return. It needs to say in there things like, you might have thought about submitting your own tax return. However, you need an expert to submit your return online. You can submit your return digitally. I suppose submit your return is the key bit. And then you just need to top and tail it multiple times repeatedly in the article without, presumably there's a point of too far, but
so the bit that you've
copy
just
and paste.
No, and the bit you've just highlighted is important, because you've always got to write for the user and not for Google. So it's writing for the user, but with Google in mind. So it's got to read well,
clear English, concise.
It's got to read well. You don't want to be repeating yourself. You don't want to be obviously just saying the phrases for the sake of it. But it's about understanding some of the things that you do need to include in that content. And it's about using them in headings, in subheadings. It's about creating pages specifically around some of these items. And as I said, the biggest quick win is reflecting on your homepage of content and thinking, right, we've now got this list. Actually, bloody hell, we don't even mention this on the homepage. Right. You need to mention it on the homepage. You need to create a bit of content on there.
So what then, Johnny? And I'm sure we get emails every day saying, we've looked at your website, there's loads of stuff you should be doing, and I'm sure there is. But let's just we as an industry have got multiple services. We're not unique in this industry. We've got loads of different services. We've got menus with drop downs with all the different services on, and then there's info. But we don't actually often change the homepage. Is that a barrier? Is that always going to make it harder for us?
So from Google's point of view, if you apply common sense, this is what you've got to do all the time. You've got to imagine that you're Google, and what would you do in Google's shoes? So the common sense thing is that if you're talking about a particular topic on your homepage and you've got some importance about that topic, for example, it's in a heading or a subheading on the homepage, then the common sense aspect is that's what you're strong for. That's what you do best. That's what your focus is. So, for example, if you happen to do a lot of accountancy for the hospitality sector, and you talk about hospitality on the homepage, because that's where you tend to do a lot of, then it's helping Google understand, right, okay, a lot around hospitality here. So the common sense aspect is you do need to control and think about what you're putting on that homepage, and having everything in a menu is helpful, but actually it doesn't give a lot of weighting or importance to Google, because to Google that's purely sort of an index of everything. It doesn't give it
just a word, isn't
an importance. Yeah.
There's no story with it.
No.
Does Google place any relevance on the person searching?
Does
it say, hold on, Johnny's in the hospitality trade?
It does.
These guys are in the hospitality trade, so they're a better match than someone not in hospitality searching for hospitality terms. Does that?
It does. So all of our searches are totally personalized based on lots of different factors. One of the biggest factors would be based on location and based on your search history. So, if I'm looking for a restaurant and I just Google restaurant, it knows that I am where I am right now, and it'll show me local restaurants. So it's very much based on that, but also on search history, and then every data point that it has. So if I'm logged into Google with a Google account, or if I've been onto lots of different websites, or it happens to know I own a particular website, yes, you get a lot of searches personalized. So if you're seeing yourself on page 1, position 3 for something, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone else is seeing you in position 3. It's probably because you are visiting your site every day, and Google's therefore lifting you up. So what you want to do is
Thinks I care about accountancy, so it
yeah.
shows me accountancy. Yeah, right.
What you want to do is use incognito in Chrome. So Google Chrome has an incognito browser, which is like private browsing, takes out all the history and the cookies, and that shows you where you
Shows
are
you what a
in general.
newborn
Yeah,
first
yeah,
time on the internet. That's
yeah,
what they would see, isn't it?
yeah. That's right.
Okay. So when you say flood your site then, or use these terms, you didn't say flood, but you get these things on your page. I mean, how much, how often, who? Because I think a lot of
Who?
business owners want to maintain. Yeah, a lot of business owners
What?
might
Who
want to
does it?
just say, hold, I'm going to have final say over it. Is that a bad idea? Because earlier you said take a lot of data points from a lot of different people and use them all. Should you let other people with different writing styles get on there, or
Well, if you've got, that's quite a big
assuming you've
question.
got suitably qualified people who can write?
So,
Yes.
so I'm hearing a few different questions here. So let me just answer a couple. So how often and how much content? Again, it goes back to, it's got to be good for the user. It's got to read well. You don't want to be repeating yourself. You also don't need to be updating content on your homepage, for example, on a daily or even weekly or even necessarily monthly basis. It's about just being aware of what should be there and making sure it's there. In terms of tone of voice and writing style, that's a whole nother question. I think that's about understanding your audience. Who is it that's going to be buying our products? So we happen to sell a lot to schools. I know that schools, when they're buying something, only want to deal with people that understand DBS checks, that understand governance, that understand policy. And so I need to talk in that language for schools to engage with my products or services. So it's really important to understand who might be buying from you and talk in their voice. In terms of having different voices and personality, I think personality is really important. People buy from people that they like and people that they trust. One of the ways to create that is by showing some personality. So if you've got a team of 3 or 4 people, by getting them to write in different writing styles and showing some personality will absolutely help engagement, but it has to come back to who's the audience.
Yes, yeah. So the audience is the key, but it does sound like then if you've got, we've got 100 people across a couple of offices. If we had half a dozen people who said, I'm happy to write blogs, get them to write blogs, put their name on it, as long as it's written with the audience in mind. It doesn't matter who's written it per se. I mean, it's got to
Absolutely.
be legally correct, and I get
Yes.
all of those things, but it doesn't matter if it's multiple styles and versions.
No, that's absolutely right.
Is there like a sweet spot for this, for the size of the content then? So you
In terms of a blog.
well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would never read a page with 1,000 words on. Not I would have to be paid to read that personally, unless I was really micro obsessed about the topic, which I'm generally not when I'm browsing. That's not where I get me high detail intel from. So, and I would imagine I'm not too dissimilar from the average casual bored browser. Is that a fair thing to say? Or?
So we all absorb content in different ways. Some of us are visual, some of us, we're all different. So you've got everything from imagery to video to text. To answer the question, the best content that does really well in Google tends to have 2,000 to 2,500 keywords. Sorry, tends to have 2,000 to 2,500 words in the page.
Right.
I'm sorry I mentioned the word keywords, just the number of words in the page. Now, I fully understand that you and even the likes of me wouldn't read that unless I was interested really deeply in the topic.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult question to answer, but the data shows that 2,000 to 2,500 can make a big difference. And it's got to be good content. It's got to be engaging. My advice to answer your question is that an ideal number of keywords is around 5. I'm using the word keywords again, and I apologize because it's just the content on the page, the number of words on the page. So the ideal number of words on a page would be about 500. Anything less than 500 is a bit too weak. However, don't just write words for the sake of it. If you've just won an award, or you've just got a news piece that you want to put out, then or that, there's a new, the chancellor's just announced a new budget and you just need to get something out quickly, then
It's
a
just a
couple of lines
date.
is fine. Yeah. But if you can do a minimum of 500, and in an ideal world, probably more like 800 or 900, that would be a target area. But just to take this answer just a tiny bit further, what you should consider doing is creating video content and text content. So you could have a 2,500 word blog with a video. So for the likes of you or me, we'll watch the video. For the likes of a third of the population, they'll read the content. What we're doing
And
is
would
we're
that
ticking both
be
boxes
would that
on
be
the same
embedded on the
page.
page?
On the same page.
So should I get a company car? Should I get an electric company
Nice
car?
video
That was
at the
one of
top.
our best. Yeah. Someone explain it in a couple of minutes, and then the detail.
And all the detail, and perhaps even just the transcript below.
It's interesting. Okay then, yeah, right. Okay. We're about 25 minutes in then, Johnny. So we'll spend the last few minutes, if it's okay, talking about the biggest sins, the biggest mistakes, the biggest blunders people make when they're looking at SEO. What's the thing where you look at and go, I can't believe people are still trying that. Where did they get that from? Because you must see some interesting stuff out there.
Well, I guess, if you go back a few years, people were hiding, they were using white text on a white background.
I was just going to say invisible text. Yeah.
So that's a huge no-no. People were also creating lots of what we call satellite websites. So sort of buying 20, 30 domains, creating lots of different websites all around the same content. So those are huge no-nos.
Was that for the links? Was it because it was at one point, if you had external links and on your site and links referring to you, that was helpful, wasn't it?
So links are important, but actually they were doing it for the keywords in the domain name. So they were buying. So for example, we could have bought OakleySunglasses.com, GucciSunglasses.com, ArmaniSunglasses.com as a keyword way of winning in the game.
But then still just trying to send you all back to the same website.
Yeah.
I'm with you, right?
So those are big no-nos. But biggest mistakes. Tiny bit technical here, but this still happens, and it's just unbelievable. Again, because it's an unregulated market, you go and buy a new website, and there's something. Well, without getting technical, there's like Google is a robot. That's all Google is. It's a robot. It goes out and looks at websites.
Yeah.
There's a little what they call robot file on each website, and to this day, I've still seen websites that have been paid for, delivered, and everything. And someone has forgotten, the developer has forgotten to untick the box, which basically says to Google, don't look at this website yet. And so you've got this fantastic website. It looks great. Everyone is using it. No one knows.
And you've got a bouncer at the door saying, sorry, Google, you're not allowed in.
Yeah. Tiny bit of code that says to Google, don't look at it.
And is the default that it's on there then, is it?
The default on, for example, a new WordPress site is it's on, yeah. So that would be
I presume the idea there is while you're under construction.
Exactly, because the last thing you'd want is for it to be in Google whilst you're creating it. So you can understand why, but to this day, I still see that. And then maybe just one other for you. Biggest mistake. Is it a mistake? Biggest mistake is not getting a Google business listing. If you go back, depending on the age of yourself or people watching or listening, if we go back a number of years, back in the 80s and 90s, we always would have a Yellow Pages listing, an advert in the Yellow Pages. We had to have it. If you weren't in there, you weren't a business. It's the same with Google. You have to have a Google business listing. So if you literally just go to google.com/business and make sure you've set your listing up, it's a free listing, fill it full of keywords, every box that you can enter some content in, fill it as much as possible with as many
rather than just, I'll get the damn thing done and just spend 5 minutes on it. Spend a bit of time on it. And so and again, for people watching this is when you click Accountant Newcastle, you'll get like 5 or 6 with a map with pins on. You want to be one of those pins, don't you?
You do.
And you can't change your location, but you never know. You might just be the one nearest to the searcher.
Yeah, but also it sends a strong signal that your website is worth putting higher in Google compared to someone else's website that doesn't have an optimized map listing. So it's a connected world. It's not just, you're not just powering your visibility in the map, you're powering your visibility across Google, full stop.
Excellent. Well, listen, Johnny, that's been fascinating. As even an old hand like me who thought I had a decent idea, learned a couple of things. I might have to just start writing slightly larger blogs. But I do love a lot of the ideas you've raised there about asking your team, asking your customers, making a note of what your customers ask for. Because I've been guilty of it in the past, and the professions are terrible at this. They'll write a blog on some far-flung kind of esoteric point that nobody's asking them about, but it makes them look really clever. And yet people just want to know how to pay the tax.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why would you not? Those people still need services. Why would you not attract the ones who are asking the everyday questions? You know, Johnny, thank you very much. Really
Absolute
appreciate
pleasure.
that. And excellent. Until next time, man. No doubt we'll have you on again if you'll have us, and we'll expand on this down the line.
Thanks so much for having me, and it's been really good to chat this through.